Okay, does it feel like you've been training forever and you cannot break 25 minutes for 5K? Or have you just started running and 2025 is the year that you're gonna break 25 minutes for 5K, which is a great time? I'm gonna give you in this video a 6-week plan that will help you not only get to 25 minutes, but smash that by a minute and run 24 minutes for your 5K. And here's why you should listen to this plan. I went from not being able to run 400 meters to running sub 25 minutes in just 6 weeks. I then went on to improving that training method and running 18 minutes for 5K and then 16 minutes. And then regularly running 15 to 16 minute 5Ks in training when I was focused on running marathons and ultra marathons, of which I represented my country for. And in this video, you are gonna get the most refined version of that method that I like to call the 2-4-6-8 method. And I hope I can make this sound as simple and easy as it really is. Once I truly understood what I'm about to tell you in this video, it unlocked a whole new way of training for me, which led to times which I once thought were not possible. Now, step one is to put a date in the diary. Hold yourself accountable by booking a race, whether that's a 5K time trial that you're absolutely committing to, or a park run, just as much fun as a race. Put that in the diary 7 or 8 weeks from now, and let that hold you accountable and keep you honest with the training. The stats are there to show that if you've got a date in the diary, you're gonna be way more consistent and disciplined with your training. Step number 2 is to identify the goal and also be honest with our starting point. The goal is 5 minutes per kilometer, sub 25 minutes for 5K. What is our current starting point? How long can we sustain running at 5 minutes per kilometer pace? If that's already 4 kilometers and for 20 minutes you can hold that 12 kilometers per hour or that 5 minutes per kilometer, stands to reason that probably you should be aiming a little bit higher than sub 25 minutes within this 6-week plan. If you can currently hold 5 minutes per kilometer for 1 or 2 minutes, again, stands to reason that it's going to take us a little bit longer than 6 weeks in order to get there. But what I will say is, if your starting point is never done speed before, never looked at an interval session before, haven't really looked at the effort levels for each one of my runs, and therefore a lot of your runs are in the gray zone, you can do a lot in 6 weeks. The interesting question and often asked question here is, how fast should I run my intervals? Now, if we look at a session like 6 times 1 kilometer with 60 seconds rest in between, the distance of the reps, the total volume of the session, 6 kilometers, and the rest period of just 60 seconds is going to dictate the pace that you can run those intervals. So if you go out too quick, you're gonna get found out in that 2nd and 3rd rep. If you're able to control the interval session, what that's gonna look like is your 1st and 2nd rep are very similar paced to your 5th and 6th rep. Now I'm gonna move on to 6 specific interval sessions that you can do to make yourself a sub 25 minute 5K runner in just 6 weeks, with the race in mind in 7 to 8 weeks. Nice little taper, freshen up, and then go for it. Session number 1, 20 times 1 minute. So first week, we're only gonna work with 20 minutes of volume, and we're gonna do 20 times 1 minute with 60 seconds rest in between. And we're gonna keep 60 seconds rest as a constant recovery in between our intervals. 20 times 1 minute is very easy to say and a very difficult session to execute. Why? Because especially initially, and if you're not used to speed, if you're not used to intervals, and if you're not used to these shorter reps, it's gonna feel like you're stopping and starting, you're going and stopping, and it's very difficult to control the pace of each one of those reps, and there's 20 of them. The way I'd be pacing these is trying to aim for 200 meters for every 1 minute interval. So we're running at 5 minutes per kilometer pace, and you're trying to do 20 times 1 minute, 20 times 200 meters in that 1 minute rep interval. And that is gonna mean that we're covering 4 kilometers in 20 times 1 minute with those 60 seconds rest in between, where we're focused on bringing our heart rate from high to low, because we know we're gonna have to go again. So we know we need to get our breathing under control to go again. That session is gonna set us up really nicely for the next weeks. Interval session number 2. Now this is where the magic really kicks in. 12 times 2 minutes with 60 seconds rest in between. So we're working with a volume of 24 minutes, which is the pace and time that we want to be running the whole 5K for in just a few weeks from now. And again, what that's gonna look like is you trying to move over the ground at 5 minutes per kilometer pace. So 400 meters per 2 minutes. 12 times 2 minutes or 12 times 400 meters, what we're aiming for is going to build a lot of volume at exactly the pace that we want to execute that 5K for. It's a great confidence boosting session, and all of these sessions are confidence boosting, because if you can work at hitting these progressions, then you're going to be ready to go and hit that sub 25 on race day. Interval session number 3. So we've done 12 times 2. Now we're going to do 8 times 3 minutes with 60 seconds rest in between. So the rep length is getting longer. 50% longer than 2 minutes. We're still keeping that 60 seconds rest in between, but by this point, 3rd or 4th week, it should start to feel pretty manageable. And also, hopefully in the 5th and 6th week, you feel like 60 seconds is a long time for you to be recovering, because your heart rate, you're seeing from going very, very high to manageable again, and it's helping you pace the entire session. 8 times 3 minutes, again, exactly 24 minutes of volume, working towards the distance that we're going to be covering on race day, and we're pacing them at 5 minutes per kilometer. So 600 meters per 3 minute rep. So we're at week 3 and interval session 3 of our 6-week program, 8 times 3 minutes intervals with 60 seconds rest in between. A question I often get asked here, and it's a great question, is what about if I could do the 12 times 2 minutes, but I cannot do those 3-minute intervals, and it starts to get difficult for me at maybe rep 3, 4, or 5. What should I do in that situation? Now, it's a great question, because we're motoring along here week by week. Initially 1-minute reps, then 2-minute reps, then 3-minute reps. And although we're still working with 24 minutes of volume the 2nd and 3rd week, those longer reps will feel more difficult to sustain that 5 minute per kilometer pace. So the volume is staying the same, the pace is staying the same. What is changing is the rep length. And therefore, we may need to stay on 2-minute reps or do a mixture of those 1-minute reps and 2-minute reps until you're ready to move up to 3-minute reps, or we can do 4, 5 reps of 3 minutes and gradually move up there. And it might be that area, that kind of 3 to 5 minute rep length, where it starts to get tough for you, because that's an area of your game that you need to develop. That's great, because it means opportunity. Interval session 4, broken finger still present. 6 times 4 minutes, 60 seconds rest in between. So again, we're going up in the rep length, but we're keeping that 24 minutes as a constant, and we're keeping the 60 seconds rest in between. They're going to start to feel like long reps, but you've only got 6 of them. And it's not as big a jump as going from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. It's not a 50% increase anymore. You're going from 3 minutes to 4 minutes, which is just a 33% increase. So it should be a nice jump to go from 8 times 3 minutes to 6 times 4 minutes. It should feel quite manageable for you. And what you're doing is you're starting to get up to that 800 meter point for each rep at 5 minutes per kilometer pace. You're starting to almost get to the kilometer point where you can do kilometer reps at 5 minute pace, which is exactly what we want to do. And we want to do more of those in order to hit our sub 25 goal. Now, a question you may have here is, it feels really easy and it feels like I could do more of those. Should I do more? Is 8 times 4 minutes better than 6 times 4 minutes? Again, we're dealing with 24 minutes. We're dealing at exactly 5 minutes per kilometer, and we're dealing with the rep length gradually increasing. So what you could do to make this a more difficult session is increase the pace. If we can then do 450 per kilometer or 445, 440 per kilometer and execute that for 6 times 4 minutes, then again, we need to look at the goal, sub 25 minutes, and think, actually, I need to be aiming faster than that, which is a great position to be in. Interval session 5. 4 times 6 minutes with 60 seconds rest in between. So we're running more than a kilometer at 5 minutes per kilometer pace or faster for that 6 minute rep, but it's only 4 reps. So we're going out there, and psychologically, for a lot of you, it will be more easy to handle than even the 20 times 1 minute. Some people find the longer reps easier to handle because there's less reps. Some people find the shorter intervals easier to handle because they've only got a minute to do, or they've only got 2 minutes to do. Whichever camp you are in, work on doing the other. So work on the area that feels toughest for you, and it will improve your game. Interval session 6, 2 times 12 minutes. Just 2 reps, but 12 minutes per rep, 24 minutes for the total volume, and just gonna have 60 seconds rest in between. Now, this is a big session, and it's a big jump as well from 6-minute reps, but you've not got 4 of them to do, you've only got 2 of them to do. This already seems too difficult, and you might feel that that's too difficult after the first rep or during the first rep. There are ways to make this easier so that you can take a few extra weeks and build on the progressions from those 6-minute reps to get you to this point where you can do 2 times 12 minutes. What that could look like is you could do 1 times 12 minutes and then 2 times 6 minutes, or 1 times 12 minutes and then 4 times 3 minutes, splitting up that second half so it's much more manageable. You've also got to be honest with yourself at this stage. What we're trying to do is run a 5K in 25 minutes or just under, and ideally a minute quicker than that, the total volume that we've been dealing with, 24 minutes. So if we cannot do 2 times 12 minutes in the pace that we're trying to hold in just 2 or 3 weeks, how are we going to be able to hold it for the entire race? The race is going to give us a little bit of that special energy you get from race day, but it's not magic. You're going to be a bit fresher from that taper that we're about to do, a 10-day taper. But again, it's not magic. You want to be at a point before that 5-kilometer race where you can hold that pace for 12 minutes. And ideally 2 reps of them. And we've already been practicing with the 60 seconds rest in between. So by this point, week 6, you're going to be super efficient at bringing the heart rate down from high to low, getting the breathing under control and going again. And you let me know if there's a race that you know out there where you can take a 60-second breather and then go again. Now, in order to get the very most out of each one of those sessions, you want to be doing a good warm-up. And for me, that looks like 500 meters walk, checking if the body is okay, if there's any soreness or tightness there, gradually going into a very light jog, some dynamic stretching, gradually accelerating up until the pace that I want to run in those first reps. So that will look for me like, okay, if we're doing 20 times 1 minute, I want to be doing 2 times 30 seconds, 2 times 50% of the first reps at the pace that I want to sustain. So at that 5 minute per kilometer pace. If we've not got to that point in the warm-up, then the chances are that the first 1, 2, 3 reps could be a shock to our system, and therefore our heart rate is going to go super high, and it's very, very difficult to bring that down. Whereas if we've warmed up to that point and we're already sweating, we're already seeing our heart rate at the level that it's going to be within the interval session, we have much more capability to handle those initial reps, but the entire session. And at the same time, and this is the biggest one, it's going to mean that we're more consistent over the weeks and months. It's going to reduce injury risk. As we're deep into winter right now, or if you're in a super hot country, it might be great for you to do these interval sessions on a treadmill, where you put in the treadmill at 1% gradient and you're going at it. What makes it very easy, the treadmill, is you've got your drink there, maybe you've got your towel there, you're in the zone, and you just put it on 12 kilometers per hour and you go at these intervals, the 1 minute, the 2 minutes, the 3 minutes, all the way up to 12 minutes. And it's just about you running as efficiently as you possibly can on the spot on a treadmill. The treadmill is a good replacement for running. And although it's not perfect to outdoor running, if you're running in a very cold country that's icy and snowy at the moment, you've got that extra risk of slipping. It's not fun to fall when you're running at pace. And therefore, it might be great to get yourself in there in your race kit, in your vest and shorts, and go at it on the treadmill. Now, those interval sessions are only part of the story, and although they're a big part of the story, it's just part of the story. You've got to consider your recovery runs, easy runs that are accelerating your recovery so that you can go fast or far again, and you've also got to consider the long run where you're building endurance. The common question for 5K is, how long should my long run be? Your long run should be where you've ran the longest in your recent past. So if your longest run is 6 kilometers, that's where you start, and gradually add each week 10%, but keep it nice and conversational. What we're trying to do there is build that aerobic base so that you're building your engine, and therefore when we go fast, and over the weeks and months you will see this, you've got more to tap into, and therefore you're able to go quicker. Your long run can start where your longest recent run has been. So if that's 6 or 7 kilometers, that's where you start from, and gradually add 10% per week, but keep it conversational. Think of that as building your aerobic base, building your engine so that you've got more to tap into as you progress and as you want to go faster. Don't neglect the recovery runs and easy runs. It may sound sexy to say that I've just been running super quick in my interval session or ran super long at the weekend. The recovery runs and easy runs are what is going to help you build that consistency along with things like the warm-up. And the better you become at not just executing them at slow enough and low enough effort, but you're able to respect them and understand how they fit into the week and the training schedule, that's going to make you a better trainer and a more consistent runner, which will receive consistent progress. Don't forget your race day strategy. Your pacing especially is important. You've done all this hard work. And so if you get to the start line and get carried away by that race day energy and go off way quicker than the 5 minutes per kilometer or slightly faster that you've been training at, it's not going to end well for you. And it's going to be a tough second half, and definitely the 3rd and 4th kilometer. It's going to be character building. It's better to start conservatively, 5 minutes per kilometer. And then if you've got something left in the 4th and 5th kilometer, you can execute that really well and know when you finish that there's much more to give. Think about the optimal scenario. You want to finish that race thinking that you've got more to give. And therefore, you've not only executed the training program of 6 weeks, there's also something else to tap into. And you've become a good trainer along the way. That's going to mean great things for future races, whether you're trying to go faster in the 5K or you want to go up in distance and run a fast 10K. But enjoy it. You've done all this hard work and now is the time to execute. So you've got to focus and you've got to expect curveballs. You've got to expect at some point it's going to get hard. You need to dig in. But the more used to this racing that you get and training specifically for a race and then executing, the better that you are going to become. So there you have it. There's your 6-week guide to running a sub 25-minute 5K. And you're going to, along that process, build a strong, powerful, fast body that will move over the ground much more efficiently at those faster speeds. And let me know in the comments if you've enjoyed this video. What is your current 5K time and what is your goal for 2025?